All right, so it's 1 o'clock. I think numbers are holding steady. For those that are probably going to join a little bit later, hopefully they just can catch up. So let's go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our event today. My name is Joe Eustaris. I'm a manager here at the USPTO, and I will be leading today's event. Just please note that today's session is being recorded. For questions, we ask that you please use the chat. We'll do our best to answer as many of those questions as we can. Please refrain from placing any personal information in the chat. And if you have any specifics about your qualifications for the examiner role, please reach out to join USPTO at uspto.gov. During this event, I will be telling you about the USPTO's mission, a brief overview of the patent examiner role, that is the role that we will primarily hiring in, and my career journey as a patent examiner when I started my career, and how my work has made an impact on innovation today, and what I've seen through the impacts of what I've been working through. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So to just simply state, the mission of the USPTO is to drive US innovation and global competitiveness for the benefit of all Americans. Our agency is the sole agency in the United States that governs and controls the patents that come through to our office. And so the main position that helps us achieve this mission is the patent examiner position. The patent examiners play a crucial role in helping us achieve our mission goal here at the USPTO. Patent examiners are skilled engineers and scientists that work closely with entrepreneurs to process their patent applications and to determine whether the patent can be granted or not. So they crucially play that role for us to help meet the mission. And so the way that our office is organized is we have what we call tech centers within our office, and we group a lot of the patent examiners with similar backgrounds within these tech centers. So for example, we would group all of the electrical engineers together. Most of the mechanical engineers would be under a different tech center, and most of the bio-life sciences would be under another tech center. So that's just an example of how we break down into the tech centers. Now within each tech center, there's a further breakdown into what we call art units. And so we'll batch about anywhere from 10 to 20 examiners within an art unit, and they'll get more specific in the technology range that they'll be examining. So, for example, as an electrical engineering TC, we might break down into like wireless communications, and then we'll have a different art unit that focuses on semiconductors, another art unit that focuses on power distribution and whatnot. So that's just an example on how we kind of organize our office so that we can basically triage the applications that are coming in so it gets to the right examiner that will understand the technology the best. And so that's been the structure in our office, and that's been working good so far. And so as patent examiners come into our office, we will file them into a tech center and get them into an art unit that is best fit to their background. I've shared a slide currently right now, it's up, that lists the backgrounds that we are currently looking for here at the office, and there is a QR code there. So if you can use the QR code to go directly to the announcements. But these are just examples of the varying fields that we have within our technology centers and the art units that specifically work in these. And so these are the areas that we are focusing on for this job that we have needs for right now. So I'm just going to go over a really high level of the patent examining process, what our patent examiners do on a day-to-day basis. I'm not going to go deep dive, so this is just going to be just high level. So when an application gets filed here within the office, it's going to go through a pre-exam phase first. That isn't in the role of the examiner, but we want to make sure that when an application does get on the examiner's docket, that we want to make sure that application has all the complete components. And so that's what the pre-exam phase will do. It will ensure that all the pieces are there. And so that way, when the examiner picks up or opens the case, everything is ready to go, and the examiner can immediately start processing the application. So once it gets through pre-exam process, then it is placed on examiner's dockets. And that's then available for the examiner whenever they're ready to pick up that case next and start processing it. And so when the examiner picks up that case, they're going to review pretty much the whole entire application to understand the invention, understand essentially what the problem they're trying to solve in this application, and to then go over the different pieces of the application. Now, within an application, there'll be the specification, basically a long description of what they're trying to invent, what they're trying to solve. There'll be some drawings that will accompany the specification so they can understand visually what they're trying to get protection for. And then more importantly, there'll be claims in the application. Now, the claims are the most important piece in the application, and most of the time spent with for the examiner will be focusing on those claims. So the examiner will review the whole entire application so they can get a full understanding of what that application is about and what technical field that they need to consider and search in terms of ensuring that the application is novel and unique. Once the examiner has established their understanding of the application, then they're going to go ahead and go through a prior art search, and they're going to search the various databases that is available to them that our office provides. Our office has a pretty robust search tool that will enable them to search all the US databases of prior art so they can do a thorough search within the databases here. We also have access for them to databases internationally, so they can do international searches just to ensure that this isn't existing somewhere else outside of the United States. And we also have AI-assisted tools that will help our examiners execute this prior art search. Now, once they have completed their prior art search and have found or not find what they're looking for in the prior art search, then they're going to write up a report that will get sent out to the applicant who filed for the application. That report is what we call an office action. The office action will either indicate that the case is allowable, which would be good, because then that means the application will get soon granted as a patent, and then the applicant can move forward with their next phase. Or alternatively, the office action will list a bunch of deficiencies that the examiner found with the application, possible prior art rejections, and other types of rejections that they have applied according to the MPEP. Now, the MPEP is the manual for patent examination and procedure. That is basically the book that we will use, or the digital resource that we use, that all patent examiners use when examining applications. And so, as a patent examiner, you will be completely familiar with that book, and you'll know it in and out to basically execute the job and review these applications. So that's high level in a nutshell on what patent examiners do here at our office, and they do that based on the technical fields that their expertises are in. And when you do apply, you'll be hopefully applying to fields that you have experience in, and that we will match that up to best suit your background. So that way you are looking at applications that fit the background that you are an expert in. Now, you're probably wondering, how does this impact society? How does it impact public? Do you ever see the products that you ever work on? And so I'm going to kind of shift and now talk about my personal experience and how the work I have worked on here has impacted the public and how I've seen it actually impact my personal life. Now, when I first started as a patent examiner, this will most likely date me, but back when I first started, satellite communications was pretty much a hotbed of technologies at that time. And so when I came on board, I specifically came into the art dealing with satellite communications. And back then the goal was pretty much to successfully deliver television or video or internet links via satellite. Now, big names back then was DirecTV, Hughes Networks, Dish Network. That was the prevalent technology. Those are the prevalent applications that I was receiving and that I was examining. And so obviously, being a kind of a video guru, having an interest in public video and seeing that stuff, DirecTV was a big consumer product that was out there. I directly saw the work that I was working on with those applications have a direct impact on how the industry was going to play out at that time. Now, back then, that was a big deal for DirecTV, receiving these signals to areas where landlines would normally not be able to reach. Today, right now, that technology is still pretty prevalent, but it is for a niche now group of people. Now, people that have properties or want access to certain content that doesn't have access to a landline to their property. This is where satellite links are still viable. Video over satellite link is now prevalent. That's not that big of a deal. Internet is now prevalent when you're flying on airplanes, when you are able to get internet on the airplane as well as television. That's all mostly from satellite links. And so that's the technology that I worked on way back when I first started. Surprisingly, back also another field of technology that I worked on that I directly see an impact in public and personally myself is vehicle entertainment systems. Now, we're talking 20 years ago where I started examining applications that dealt with providing some kind of entertainment form in the vehicles with touchscreens, video, and interactions. Now, in today's time, like if you're going to buy a vehicle, it's pretty much hard to find a vehicle that doesn't have some kind of touchscreen or doesn't have some kind of connectivity in it. I was examining those applications that dealt with those like 20 years ago. So all of that technology that I examined back then, I didn't necessarily see it immediately because I had worked on those a while ago. But now, looking at it today, all of the technologies that you see in the modern vehicles now pretty much stem from the work that I worked on back then. So the connectivities in the vehicles, the apps, fortunately streaming some video content onto your phone is now possible because of the technologies that I worked from. Near the end of my stint as a patent examiner, I started working on applications that dealt with sharing your personal videos on the internet, and then enabling your peers to be able to provide comments and to provide some feedback on your personal videos. That sounds familiar. That is pretty much YouTube in a nutshell. And so again, that I was examining patent applications dealing with that in the early 2000s. And now today, YouTube is a mega platform, as well as YouTube TV, but that doesn't provide the user interaction like the YouTube interface does. And so those applications I did work on back in my career as a patent examiner. Now, when I transitioned over to as a manager, that application bed included that was focused on YouTube TV and whatnot led to me going into the manager role and supervising examiners that worked on specifically video compression. Now, that has a link towards YouTube UTV because the areas that I supervise in now deal with providing the highest level of video content to the end user using the least amount of bandwidth. And so it doesn't really sound exciting at first, but essentially that is the backbones of every streaming media service that is used today. So if you use Hulu, DirecTV, well, not DirecTV, Disney Plus, any of the streaming services that you receive content through the internet, they're going to utilize technologies that my area examines, because the area that we examine is going to try to provide the highest level of compression of the video. So that way you can, as the end user, receive a high quality video that's going to use minimum bandwidth for the content providers, because if the least amount of bandwidth they use, that means the more content they can push to you. So that's the technology that I currently supervise in. And another area that I also supervise over is special use of cameras. Now, special use of cameras in today's world is prevalent. Cameras on drones is a big one. And obviously cameras on vehicles is a big one. Now, we have been examining cameras on drones and vehicles for over a decade now. And those things have been becoming more and more prevalent just because now it is easily found in obviously many drones if you are going to use drones for whatever function you're going to use drones for. But for example, vehicles, there is a camera literally on every vehicle now. Predominantly backup cameras because that's mandated here in the States. But you can put a camera pretty much all around the car and you can create 360 videos or 360 views of your vehicle. We worked on those applications years and years ago, but now that stuff is now becoming standard on vehicles or options on vehicles, so you can get those things and use those things. And so as a gearhead or or a vehicle enthusiast as myself, I see those things day in and day out. My vehicles have them, and obviously I know the backbones of those. I know how those work. I've worked on the applications that have patented some of the systems. And so it's good to see the stuff that I directly work on impact what other people are using in today's society, as well as the products that I like to buy myself. And so that's how my area of field of expertise I've seen impact everything else. Now, not everything that comes through the office that gets granted gets immediately commercialized. Now, that's obviously up to the applicant that filed for the patent. And it just depends on whether they deem it commercially viable at the time. And if they do, they might immediately release it, and you'll see the impacts of that as it comes out in public. Sometimes the company or person might determine that it's not commercially viable at that moment in time, and they'll just sit and wait on it. And they'll just wait until a future time where it will become commercially viable to use that patent and to then come out with products to utilize it for public use. And then there is that some rare case scenario where that commercial viability just doesn't ever show up, and they'll just, keep the patent in their portfolio, but they'll actually never really use it. And that is a scenario that does come out. And then in that case, you may never see what you worked on ever come to public use. But those are rare. But most of the stuff that I've worked on has become pretty much public use, and I directly have used it myself in my personal life. Now, that's just my journey here at the USPTO and how I saw the work that I work on here impact my life and the lives of others around me. But you could have a similar journey here. Based on your background, you could be working on various different applications that might impact someone's life or even your life in a different way. Many of those areas that are on the slide I'm sharing right now could be in your background, and you could be working in those areas to examine patent applications that could have a very big impact in those industries that will change how we would live and how it makes our lives easier down the road. You just never know. But if that sounds like something that is interesting to you, then I highly motivate you to use that QR code. Go ahead and look at the job announcements that we have up and apply. That job will give you this job as a patent examiner will give you the opportunity to really plug into each of the industries that is your expertise. You're going to become an expert in that industry. You will examine applications that focuses on that, and you'll be able to help the entrepreneurs and the applicants who are filing for protection here in the United States to be able to achieve that goal of theirs and hopefully have that invention help improve everyone's lives. So with that is pretty much my presentation in a nutshell. So we'll wrap up with that. Again, if you are interested, please use the QR link that's displayed on the screen and look at the job announcements available. I believe the crosswalk has now been dropped in the chat. So if you have a different discipline and you're not sure which one matches up, go ahead and use the crosswalk. It will help you kind of determine which announcements are best for you, and go ahead and apply to these announcements as soon as you can. Again, if you have any more specific questions about your qualifications, use that email that I provided before at joinuspto@uspto.gov. So thanks again for joining our event, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.